Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Monday Movie Club. Today, we are going to be delving back into the world of animation with Monsters Incorporated, or Monsters, Inc. And here with me to talk about it is my good friend from NYU, Amandalyn Mclellan. Amandalyn, welcome.
Hey, Kieran, thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you doing in the midst of the craziness of the world right now?
I'm all right. My first little step out of quarantine was to film the movie I'm currently working on. So it's been kind of like a little shock the past week or so. I was in quarantine for about 3 months with my family. So everyone's so close, and I'd gotten a new puppy, and I had to inflict it on my parents. So
Oh, my parents also got a new puppy right at the start of quarantine. Like my mom's a teacher and they wanted a new dog after the last one passed away. But she was like, oh, with school, I really can't. And once they put school on pause for 2 weeks, she was like, I'll do it now. 2 weeks is a perfect amount of time. And now my dog has no idea what it's like to not have her family constantly around her. So the end of quarantine will be a shock for her. So I like to open up these conversations with two little fun questions, not regarding Monsters, Inc. The first one being, what is the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
uh, I think I remember two of them. One of them is Shrek.
A modern classic.
I went with a friend, and I don't know, I don't think that was the first time, but I remember it very clearly. I think it just had a really big impact on me, which is such
I mean, the Shrek franchise as a whole, the first and the second one, just perfect.
yeah. Yeah. I think the actual first was I I think it was either a Winnie the Pooh movie. I think it might have been a Winnie the Pooh movie. Which has one of the best quotes in the world, that you're braver than you seem, um, stronger than you believe, and smarter than you think, which is just so sweet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
or maybe it was probably Winnie the Pooh. I
Mhm.
remember Nemo as well, but that came after Monsters Inc. So
Yeah, yeah. Which is actually funny. I have a little note on that I'll touch on in a bit. The other question I like to ask is there a movie from your childhood that left like stands above the rest as leaving an impact on you or your taste in movies?
yes. Um, so it's actually the Broadway recording of Mary Martin Peter Pan, which is what made me want to be an actor. Which is so there's that, and so we see the trend of magic here.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second thing. There was Peter Pan, and what was the other one?
Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, yes, yes.
I was so into that world that even when I was a preteen and I didn't get my Hogwarts letter, I cried. I definitely,
Wait, you didn't get your Hogwarts letter? I think somewhere I have mine. Oh yeah, it's right here. Hold on. I got my Hogwarts letter right here.
There you go.
It's signed by McGonagall and everything. Yeah, Harry Potter is my impact movie too. As viewers of this show will know, Chamber of Secrets is the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. Although I know for a fact the first one I saw was Toy Story 2. Chamber of Secrets is the first one I remember seeing, and Sorcerer's Stone is my big reason that I wanted to become an actor. I didn't understand acting yet, and I wanted to be a wizard at first. This is the closest thing I could get to that.
I thought myself, that if you can't be Peter Pan and fly around the room, if you can't be Harry and go into a magical castle full of all the most amazing things you've ever seen, the next best thing is being that for.
Exactly. Exactly. And funny thing that you mentioned Peter Pan as your other big thing. Before Harry Potter was my obsession, which it has been for the rest of my life. As a little kid, it was Peter Pan, to the point where in kindergarten, when we were going to meet everyone's right before kindergarten, oh, you're going to meet the other kids and the teachers. I insisted with my mom that I wear my Peter Pan hat to go meet everyone. Gave me confidence and I wanted to wear it. Yeah.
Not with that little like feather in your cap. It's just
Yep. It had the little feather and it had a little Peter Pan sticker because it was like a cheap Party City costume.
I always wanted to go off to Neverland and have all kinds of adventures. I was a total tomboy as a kid. Like I loved my sparkles and all, but I also loved wielding a sword, you know, running through the woods. So I wanted
No,
to
absolutely.
I wanted to so badly.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful picks. So on to another wonderful pick. Today's movie at hand, Monsters Inc. Amandalyn, I adore Pixar movies. And this one I remember watching a lot growing up. And I was wondering why Monsters Inc.? What stands not only for other movies and why this was one that you want to talk about, but like even more than other Pixar movies? Why Monsters Inc.?
Well, the beauty of Monsters Inc. is that it really is for everybody. You know, it just sucks you into this world where it's so like parallel to ours, but at the same time so like outrageous and different. Um, it truly is the definition of like a feel good movie. And I feel like we all kind of need some feel good energy right now. Not only that, it has such a beautiful message that laughter and joy is so much more powerful than fear, which is something, you know, there's a lot of fear in our country and in our world right now. And I think that Monsters Inc. is incredibly pertinent to the times. You know, it comes back like guys. So I feel like Monsters Inc. is always a good choice in movie. There's so many special little lessons in there, and besides the fact that it's just like a boatload of fun. Like no matter if you're 4, if you're 44, if you're 404, it's funny and it's
Yeah, absolutely. I just rewatched the movie last night, so because I really wanted to have it be fresh in my mind. Because even though I did watch this movie a lot growing up, you know, it's been a couple of years, and kind of going off of one of the things you said, how it sort of sucks you into this world. One of the things while watching this movie as like an adult that I had to give this movie major props for was the incredible world building that it did. So quickly, within like 5 minutes, you get the world. And it keeps going, and it feels so natural, and there's never a moment wasted with this incredible world building.
yeah.
Even from something as simple as the character of Roz, who's right here, like the fact that they're able to. What's that?
I said, like, we all know a Roz. There's been a
Yeah.
Roz point, you know?
And I love that they're able to like bring that back around. They're really able to make everything count and matter. And I don't think there's a single aspect of this movie that doesn't pay off in some way or doesn't bring itself back around. There's nothing pointless in anything they do, you know?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So beautiful.
I think the heart of this movie, and I don't think it's a secret, is Boo.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they captured such magic with that character. Like not only visually, like the animation, they actually had to create a new software to animate this movie because of all the fine details, you know, because of like fur and
The fur. Yeah.
just visually they created something beautiful, but like character wise, I'm sure you know they used the daughter of one of the sketch artists, the animators, following her around with a microphone. So it's all natural and pure before there's any kind of influence on a person. You just really capture what it is to be so young in Boo. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, video cut out for a sec. Oh, you're
sorry.
back.
Heard. I don't know if this is true or not, and it might be, but that they used some of Boo's extra sounds that they didn't end up using in Monsters Inc. in Inside Out for the baby sibling character. I've heard that. Not sure. That might be true. But,
I wouldn't be surprised if that was true, because again, Pete Docter directed both. They're both Pixar, so they would have the ability to do that. on the little Easter eggs things that you just mentioned of that like connect the movie. At the end, I don't think I ever noticed this as a kid, really thought about the timeline as a kid. But obviously at the end when I don't feel like I need to do spoilers for this movie because it's been around for 20 years. Um, uh, but at the end when he's with her in her room and she's like showing him all of the toys, there is that little Easter egg of Jessie that you see there, which came out right before Monsters Inc. But then there's a Nemo toy.
Yes. Yes.
And Finding Nemo doesn't come out for another year and a half.
Yeah. Well, you gotta wonder because the amount of time it takes for them to make these movies, I'm sure they at least had it in like some kind of production, like they had a script or they. So the fact that they did that it's just awesome, and they have a ball from Toy Story too.
Yes. Well, that ball pops up in a lot of movies. It's akin to the Pizza Planet truck. The Pizza Planet truck is in like every Pixar movie. I'm pretty sure even in Brave.
Yeah,
I think in Brave there's a cave drawing of the Pizza Planet truck.
That's funny. Oh, I never noticed.
Yeah, people can go online and Google that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's either the ball or the Pizza Planet truck. There's a cave drawing of it in the background.
So funny. Love that.
Yeah.
I love Easter eggs. They're the best. And the wallpaper during the scene in Monsters Inc. when Randall is practicing and changing colors, and all of a sudden they pulled out wallpaper from Toy Story that Randall is a monster, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's amazingly well crafted, and not only that, but I mean that's part of the reason that I'm sure you've heard of like the Pixar theory, where all of the movies are in the same universe and world. I think Monsters Inc. takes place like in the distant future is this idea. Yeah. The idea being like WALL-E happens, and that's like the end of kind of like human race as we know it. And then after that you have like Bug's life being there. And then it gets further and further along and a new evolution path. Then we get Monsters Inc. And those doors that they're opening aren't like universe traveling, but time travel.
Ooh, I never heard that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the idea being that the energy that they're getting from that whole thing and screams is they're basically like changing time, and that's creating energy. But laughter creates a bigger change because it's a positive impact, and so it creates more energy.
I love that. Oh, that's a good theory. Ooh, I hadn't heard that one. I like that.
Yeah. One of the things I respect a lot about Pixar is how incredibly deep they're willing to go and not talk down to their children's audience. Because if you were to pitch like the concept of this movie, take out the fact that they're monsters, you're like, okay, so this movie is about an energy crisis that is looming over a country, and a corrupt business is trying to find new ways to extract energy by kidnapping children. You'd be like, that's a messed up sci-fi movie, probably rated R.
Somehow they make something like palatable for all audiences. You can tell that the people at Pixar are like thinkers, you know? And what I love about the creation of Monsters Inc., there was a lot of they weren't all what you see today was not the original, was not the original script. They talked about like the funny thing is that they're like, oh well, the energy crisis thing actually had nothing to do with our modern world. It was just something to heighten stakes and like
oh, how 20 years can change something.
I know, and Sully and Mike originally didn't look how they look. The original sketches, if you look at those, are just too funny. Like the sketch of Mike, he was purple and but he had no arms. And part of like their running gag was that people continuously needed to open the door for him, but it just got to be so much that they're like, they can't go here now because there's no one else. It's just him and he needs arms.
I think I've seen those pictures, but I didn't know that the reason was they were like, oh my god, the arms thing is too much. It's also funny. that the two voice actors they chose to lead this movie, they're like, all right, who do kids really love? Billy Crystal. Kids love Billy Crystal.
Crystal.
Yeah. Like when you think about like the casting of Toy Story, you're like, oh yeah, Tim Allen has, even though like him as a person, maybe not child friendly, but he has the Santa Claus movies. Tom Hanks, very child friendly. But they're like John Goodman and Billy Crystal are our leads.
Pitching that. I mean,
Yeah.
like we have and this is our lead. Sorry, Billy Crystal. But so funny, you know, they actually asked to be able to record in the same studio so that the chemistry would be real. So it took them like 2.5 years to record all their audio because
Oh,
people
wow.
were the script, and then they also wanted to meet together, so it was a scheduling thing. But what from it was such a beautiful chemistry that like totally worth the extra time, if you ask me. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. And with a company like Pixar, especially because this is when Pixar and Disney were connected, because the first few movies they weren't like owned by yet, because it was still a Steve Jobs owned company. But at a point where Pixar has already proven themselves with, you know, the first two Toy Story movies and Bug's Life, I think might have been the only three that had come out at this point. But they had already proven themselves, and Disney has endless time and money. They're like, yeah, sure, do it. Just gives a lot of freedom for all the people there. Yeah.
absolutely. And another funny thing, the fact that when we're talking about the actors, Steve Buscemi is Randall.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I mean, that makes a little more sense. Who would a child be afraid of? Steve Buscemi.
Who would be terrified if they came out of your closet? Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi. You'd be like, just alone, Steve Buscemi. One thing that I kind of want to bring up that's a bit of a weird thing, but it's a world building aspect that has always intrigued me. It's the idea of the banishment.
Yeah.
When they get banished, right, and they're sent there. We know that the abominable snowman has been banished, and he references his friend Bigfoot has also been banished at a different part of the world, but apparently they both know that they've been banished. Does that metal door, did they build that? Because every other door, it's like, oh, it has to be an existing door, and it has to be exactly like one there. And so that's always intrigued me. Did somebody have to go out of their way, like sneak into the human world and build this door in the middle of nowhere to make it work?
Huh. That's an interesting thought. And then, like, what would happen if someone were to find that door? You know, like,
Yeah, they'd be like, what the hell is this?
what a monster just comes barreling out.
Yeah, really, like what happens if somebody sees that? Although I do think that there's something comedic later that kind of explains away like the human psychology, and they probably wouldn't think too much of it, which is when Randall, when they throw him and they kind of take it upon themselves to banish him, and they're like, it's a gator. Like you kind of make weird things make sense in your head. You're like, oh, that's an alligator. Because if that was a monster, my world would be changed, and that can't happen.
Right. Yeah. And the way Boo calls Sully kitty, because it's the only thing that she thinks he's a kitty. Like he's furry, he's got ears, it's kind of, you know, that's
Yeah.
it.
He's just a very large kitty cat. And another thing on like weird world implications, kind of on that same tangent. It's funny to me what the world would be like our world would be like 5 years after the implemented changes at Monsters Inc. Because a child being afraid of something in the closet, a parent hearing that would be like, oh, yeah, like kids are afraid of that, like it's okay. But if the next morning your kid came down and said, hey, mom and dad, a bowling ball looking green one-eyed thing came out and did stand-up comedy to me last night. You might want that child to get checked.
But then that begs the question, is that then an imaginary friend?
I get maybe, but then the next step is, what if, the mom is like, oh, my kid has an imaginary friend that's doing stand-up to them at night. And then all the other parents in the town would be like, my kid too.
Dinner party.
Yeah. They're all like, what? Why are they saying that someone that sounds like Billy Crystal is doing stand-up to them in the middle of the night?
Yeah. Wait a minute. The bowling ball comes out and tells your child racy humor as well, not just
like, it would definitely be a kinder world, but it'd be a weirder world too.
And what's really funny? That scene with the stand-up comedy, that idea was stumbled on by accident as well, because someone in the booth had left the reverb on, and so Billy Crystal then just started joking around with the reverb, like of the mic, and that's how they ended up getting the idea for Mike doing stand-up comedy when he comes out of the closet, and that was cool.
That's incredible. Even in animated movies that are so meticulously planned, some of the most beautiful parts of it are those little improvisations or accidents that happen along the way. Just like any other movie, you always remember those moments the most. Leo cutting his hand in Django. The "I love you, I know" line from Empire Strikes Back. This stuff that just lives forever is the most spontaneous parts.
The Devil Wears Prada. That everyone wants to be us. That's there's those moments of either changing a line accidentally, on purpose, improvising, the unexpected. There's such beauty in the unexpected.
Yeah. I'm going to bring this full circle before we bring this conversation to a close. I'm going to go back a second to Harry Potter, all right? Because there are two moments, and I'll probably eventually do a video of just me talking about Harry Potter, but two moments in Chamber of Secrets that were an accident and an improv that are some of the most memorable moments in my mind. The first one, chronologically, being when Harry and Ron are polyjuiced, right? And they're talking with Malfoy, and he's like, why do you have glasses on? He's like, oh, reading. When Tom Felton says, I didn't know you knew how to read, he forgot his line. And so he just made that up. That's why there's like a moment of hesitation in him, because he actually is like, what's my line? And he's like, I didn't know how to read.
God, I didn't. Cool.
Yeah. And the other moment, and Jason Isaacs has talked about this in interviews, and this is the moment that he knew that Daniel Radcliffe would like be something after Harry Potter. It's at the end of the movie when Jason Isaacs is like, let us hope that Harry Potter will always be there to save the day. Daniel Radcliffe improvised the line of, I will be. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Such a good franchise. Oh, I could talk for days about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to have to do a video where I bring on because Harry Potter has come up with multiple of my friends and either impact on movie or first movie scene. It's a connecting factor of people in our generation.
Talk about Harry.
Yes. Amandalyn, before we close this video out, do you have anything that you would like to plug to the audience at home?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have three projects that are going to be coming out that if you're interested. The first is a kind of Black Mirror-y sci-fi kind of movie, but it's very close to our modern day, and it's called Tequila Flavored Cigarettes. It's the second in a trilogy of movies. And that will be coming out. Corona has messed up a lot of the states, so I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure come out in the fall. We have another one coming out that's a Christmas movie. It's really sweet and wholesome and has a lot of elements of Monsters Inc. It's a little It's a little more adult, but it's it's like Hallmark with a little spice, and it's called Fairhaven.
Nice.
And this last movie is the one I'm currently working on, done during Corona. It's kind of an experiment here. It's called The Bunny Man, and it's a horror movie based on the urban legend of the Bunny Man in Virginia, Bunny Man Bridge, and that will be coming out sometime next year. So keep your eyes open.
Very nice. Well, thank you, Amandalyn, for coming on, and thank you to everyone at home for watching. Let us know down in the comments below what your favorite Pixar movie of all time is. We've done favorite animated, but specifically Pixar. For me, I think I have to say Inside Out is my favorite. Made me cry in theaters as a full-grown adult on a date. Cried. And that's okay. As the movie says, that's okay. Amandalyn, is Monsters, Inc. your favorite Pixar movie? Is there any other that you think might...
Monsters Inc. is my favorite Pixar, for sure. For sure.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you again for everyone at home for watching. Next week, we will be delving back into the world of horror. This time, a more recent horror movie and a little more thriller, Midsommar. We're going to be talking about Midsommar next week. Amandalyn, I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it is a doozy.
It is movies that may redefine the genre. That is what
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah, Ari Aster did it with Hereditary, and then he did it again with Midsommar. So it'll be a fun one to talk about. So that's it, everyone. Thanks. Goodbye.